The Philippines says it has delivered fresh supplies to a remote outpost it claims in the South China Sea. Manila says Beijing's attempts to block, harass, and interfere with the supply mission were unsuccessful. Chinese ships fired water cannon at a Philippine supply mission to the second Thomas Shoal in the disputed Spratlys Islands 2 weeks before, stopping it from reaching the Filipino troops. Manila enforces its claim using a decrepit Navy ship with a few troops. China's embassy in Manila did not immediately reply to a request for comment. Beijing claims almost the entire South China Sea, including the Spratlys, which is also claimed in part by the Philippines. The sea is a rich fishing ground that is believed to hold vast oil and gas reserves. Supply missions to the shoal have been a frequent source of friction between the two claimants. Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, and Taiwan also claim parts of the sea, where an estimated $3.37 trillion or 21% of global trade pass through every year. Two ships carrying supplies, escorted by two Coast Guard ships, delivered fresh provisions to 2nd Thomas Shoal on August 22nd, the Philippines National Task Force on the West Philippine Sea said in a statement. Manila refers to the portion of the South China Sea that is within its exclusive economic zone, EEZ, as the West Philippine Sea. Supply missions to the shoal will continue on a regular basis, the task force said. The U.S., the Philippines' treaty ally, has expressed concern over what Manila has described as Beijing's dangerous maneuvers in the South China Sea. Aside from water cannon, Chinese ships also allegedly shown military-grade lasers to temporarily blind the crews of Philippine vessels. China's repeated attempts to block supply missions to 2nd Thomas Shoal formed part of the Philippines' winning case before the UN-backed Permanent Court of Arbitration at The Hague in 2014. The tribunal ruled that China's claim based on ancient maps is ill-founded. However, Beijing has refused to recognize the ruling and instead built artificial islands on disputed reefs. After the supply mission in early August was blocked, China's foreign ministry asked the Philippines to remove the ship on 2nd Thomas Shoal, claiming Manila had repeatedly made clear promises to tow away the warship illegally stranded on the reef. It did not say who made the promise. Former President Rodrigo Duterte, who served for 6 years until mid-2022, pivoted Manila's alliances to China and Russia, straining ties with the nation's long-standing ally, Washington. However, his successor, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., restored security ties with the U.S. and in early 2023 granted American troops wider access to Philippine military bases. This angered China as a larger U.S. presence in the Philippines provides the missing link to Washington's arc of alliances in the region, stretching from South Korea and Japan to the north to Australia in the south. Washington has stitched the gap in the arc of U.S. alliances stretching from South Korea and Japan in the north to Australia in the south. The missing link had been the Philippines, which borders two of the biggest potential flashpoints, Taiwan and the South China Sea. The deal, which in part reverses the U.S. departure from their former colony more than 30 years ago, is no small matter. There is no contingency in the South China Sea that does not require access to the Philippines, says Gregory B. Poling, director of the Southeast Asia program at the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington. The U.S. is not looking for permanent bases. It's about places, not bases. The U.S. already had limited access to 5 sites under the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, EDCA. The new additions and expanded access, according to a statement from Washington, will allow more rapid support for humanitarian and climate-related disasters in the Philippines and respond to other shared challenges, likely a veiled reference to countering China in the region. The statement came after U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin met Philippine President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. in Manila on Thursday. The U.S. hasn't said where the new bases are, but 3 of them could be on Luzon, an island on the northern edge of the Philippines, the only large piece of land close to Taiwan if you don't count China. China criticized the agreement, saying U.S. actions escalate regional tension and undermine regional peace and stability. The United States, out of its self-interests and zero-sum game mentality, continues to step up military posture in this region, its embassy said in a statement. These days, the U.S. is seeking access to places where light and flexible operations involving supplies and surveillance can be run as and when needed, rather than bases where large numbers of troops will be stationed. In other words, this is not a return to the 1980s, when the Philippines was home to 15,000 U.S. troops and 2 of the largest American military bases in Asia, at Clark Field and nearby Subic Bay. Then in 1991, the Philippine government called time. The Filipinos had recently overthrown the hated dictatorship of Ferdinand Marcos, and sending the old colonial masters home would further cement both democracy and independence.